Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let's get into it this morning. Wake up and where? Wake up and where? Wake up and when? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am your girl, Dr. Najuma, and welcome to Wake Up and Win Live with your girl, Dr. Najuma. So grateful that you all are joining us on this platform today for today's win word. For today's win word, I'm real casual today because I am going to the gym after I'm done recording today's part 5 of our series, Release All Attachments. I'm headed to the gym. And so I'm a little more casual than normal, but it's all good. But I wasn't going to allow that to stop me from being on live with you all today and sharing today's win word. Um, and as we are this whole month of August, we are in this series, Releasing All Attachments. And my hope and my goal is to get out to share with you a year-long journey that a year-long journey, a little journey that a little longer than a year actually. And to share all of what I learned, what I experienced, all the golden nuggets that hopefully can be of assistance or help to you along your journey. But before we get into today's win word, let me reintroduce myself. I am your girl, Reverend Dr. Najuma Smith. I'm a pastor here in LA. I'm also a purpose coach. I do a lot of work in the area of civic and community engagement. And I use this platform, Wake Up and Win channel, to share with you a weekly or daily word, or what we call win word. So you can go through a major loss, recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win again. You can go through a major loss, recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win again. And for those that know my story, what is my hair doing? I don't know what it's doing. And for those that follow my journey, you know that in 2018, I lost my son to community violence and went through a divorce right after that. And then, like the rest of y'all, went through the pandemic. But out of all of that, this platform was birthed. Wake Up and Win, the brand, the clothing line. So we're a brand, we're a clothing line, but I also use a platform to again encourage anyone that is tuned in, tapped in, that you can go through a major loss, recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win. So let's get into today's win word, which is part 5 of our series that we're doing the month of August, entitled Release All Attachments. And so if you've not watched any of the last 4 parts, the first 4 parts, I want to encourage you to go back and watch those. And they're all under 20 minutes. That's intentional, because we want to just hit you with a bit of a story each, a little bit at a time. And by the end of the month, you have walked with me through the year in the month, right? And also, I didn't want to do like some long 2-hour video, even though a lot of people do that. I just didn't want to do that. So, um, so let's get into today's win word, which is again part 5 of our series, Release All Attachments. So if anyone's watching for the very first time or tuned in for the very first time, listening for the very first time, this process started in 2023, just a couple weeks before Lent of 2023, when I heard the voice of God say, "Release all attachments." And after spending some time with that and getting clarity on what God was saying, I started what ended up being a process of more than a year of just releasing attachments. And the word attachment actually came to me in 2022, and I shared that story yesterday. And it stuck with me for some time. And so when I heard the Lord say, "Release all attachments," I was clear that part of what God was wanting to free me up, was wanting to free me up from being in that similar situation where I couldn't move forward in life or couldn't pursue new things or a new way of being or new way of showing up because of an old attachment. So I shared that story yesterday, but I want to share with you one of my own stories. Yesterday's story was about an associate of mine. Today's story is a personal story about attachment that I recognize in this process. And there's a few, but I'm going to tell this one today. So years ago, and I mean when I say years ago, I'm going to say somewhere around 2014, 15, maybe 2013, somewhere 2013, 2015. Don't remember the exact date, but I remember someone making a harsh critique of an aspect of my physical body. I don't want to draw attention to my body, so I'm not going to tell you apart. But I'm going to say they drew a harsh critique and they said, "Oh, you're da 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 da," and they made a very harsh critique of something about my body physically. And I don't want to give it energy, so I'm not going to go into what was said. I don't want to repeat it because when I repeat it, then I hear it and I'm not doing all that. Because I've released it. But I do want to tell a story. So in the moment when they said it, I was in a space where I was also having some other challenges going on, and I was already vulnerable. And we talked about in part 2 of our series about how vulnerability plays a part in these attachments, right? I think it was part 2 or part 3. We already talked about how vulnerability plays a part in these attachments because it opens the door for things to become attached to us or to take on things that are not healthy, right? And so, somewhere between 2013 and 2015, someone made a very harsh critique of my physical body or an aspect of my body. And again, at that time, I was extremely vulnerable because I was also dealing with some other issues, some other challenges, and I was vulnerable. I was emotionally vulnerable because I was actually emotionally all over the place, right? And when they said the comment in the moment, I rejected. I was like, whatever. However, because I was already in an emotional state, I was already going through some things. That word, that critique, that criticism of my physical body, like attached itself to me in a way that I was not prepared. And what I mean by that is I became hyper sensitive and conscious about an aspect of my body. And it wasn't like anybody knew about it. I didn't go around saying, "Oh, I don't like this part of me. I don't like that part of me." But the way that it it took over my thinking, like the way the way I thought about my a part of my body, the way I looked at a part of my body, the way I was like always trying to hide that part of my body or do something different or fix it or change it or just something. And that because that statement, that comment, because I was vulnerable, attached, right? It became and then it had a lot to do with the person that said it, right? It had a lot to do with the person that said it and when they said it and the way in which they said it. And that word attached to my mind, my emotions, and to it took years for me to really accept like that what they were saying, what they said was not true. And even though I knew it wasn't true, it still impacted me. And in this last year where I've been going through releasing all attachments, here's what I had to come to. Because words and and things that people speak over your life can become as attached to you as an individual or a habit or a mindset. So I had a mindset about a part of my body that did not originate with me. It did not originate with me. I did not say this by myself. It was said to me, but because I was vulnerable, I was already kind of all over the place with other things. It just attached, right? And then it became a part of me where I was now trying to either fix, hide, critique, and being very self conscious about that part of my body. And it wasn't until this last year in this process, even though I knew it wasn't true, the attachment was still there and I was attached to their words. And again, it made me very self conscious for these amount of years. And it wasn't until this last year and a half journey where I had to release all attachments, where I had to release the person and every word that came out of their mouths, right? I had to go through a process of not just releasing the person, even though the person was not really has not been a part of my life for some time, releasing the person, but also every word that proceeded out their mouth. And what I want to offer is that a lot of times we are walking around with with things that people have said about us and they become attached to our thinking, to our emotions, to our how we see ourselves, to how we process ourselves as if it's true. So a couple of things that I want to say about this attachment to something that was said, right? Number one is I had to accept it wasn't true, right? Number two, I had to contend with, it did not originate with me. This was not from me, and it wasn't from God, more importantly, right? So consider the source. That's number two. And number three was like, what was the intention behind what was said? And as I processed this last year, one of the things I had to process is, why were those words so painful? It wasn't true. It didn't originate with me, yet it stung, right? And what I had to process was, what was the intention about what was said? And the intention was, they were trying to hurt me. And guess what? They actually succeeded for a time, for a time, but not anymore. And so part of what I had to release the attachment to was this, what was the criticism or the critique, but more importantly, had to release them and what they said, and the intention. Like, I had to release the intention. The intention was to hurt. The intention was to make me self-conscious. The intention was to bring me down. And I had to release that. I had to release, I had to get free from all of that, because that critique, if I didn't get free from all that, would remain attached to me, right? And I want to offer to you that when we talk about attachments, again, they can be literal, like you're attached to a person, a behavior, a mindset, and the mindset that had become attached, that I couldn't let go of, though I know I needed to, was this criticism and critique, but also the person who said it and why they said it. And I had to go through that. And so when I get into sharing about the process, it's going to all come together. But I had to release that attachment to those words and the impact and who said it, right? I had to, in this year-long process of releasing our attachment, I had to release the person that said it. I had to release what they said and the impact that I had to release all of that. Because if I did not, then that would still continue to be a part of me, even though it didn't come from me, even though I didn't want it, and even though the attachment to those words and the impact and the intention was nothing I wanted, and it caused a struggle. I had to get free from that. And so the question for today that I want to offer to you is, what are the words that have become attached to you, that somewhat serve as an identity, or they're attached to you, so you kind of feel like, well, maybe that is me, or maybe I should, you carry the burden of what someone else said, when really what they said was not helpful, but only destructive. It was a criticism without love, right? It was to hurt, to harm, and it didn't come from you. Like, it didn't, this is not you talking about you, this has come from somebody else. Like, this is an outside source. And so I don't need to carry something that comes from somebody else, especially if it's not of benefit to me, especially if the intention is to harm me, harm you. And so I want to encourage you to think about the things that you're processing, the words, the thoughts, the conversations, the critiques, the opinions. Wow. There are so many people that are not living their best life because an opinion of someone. And so I want to invite you today to think about those things that have been said, that have become attached to you, and you carry them with you wherever you go. You carry them with you wherever you go, and they're not helping, they're not benefiting, they're actually draining you, they bring you down, they make you self-conscious, they make you worried, or whatever the case might be. Make you totally, like you feel a way about yourself, but you don't know why you feel a way about yourself, because something that someone says become attached to you. And today I want to invite you to continue to join us as we work through the process of releasing all attachments. And that includes the words people say. That includes the negative things, the unhelpful, the dehumanizing, degrading, tear you apart, tear you down. My only intention is to hurt you. Things that people say. It's time to release those things. It's time to release those attachments so you can live free from those criticism and critiques. So you can live free from those opinions. whose only and the only intention was to minimize you and bring you down, and not to help you or to uplift you or to encourage you. And yes, even words, we have to release attachment to words. And again, those criticism words, those harsh words have become such a part of me that anywhere I went, I could hear it. Anywhere that I went, anything that I did, that part of my body always had me looking over my shoulder and double checking and seeing and worrying, concerned and pulling and tucking and all the things, right? And what can I do? Let me do this, let me do that. When all along I've been beautiful and fine, baby. When all along I've been beautiful and fine. And so, what are the words? What are the words of other people? The words of criticism and critique that you are. I feel like something's crawling on me, like a spider, a baby spider, something, um, that you're attached to, and you take them with you wherever you go, but they're not for you to carry. What are those words? And again, this platform is used to encourage us that we can go through a major loss, recover, restore, rebuild, and win again. And so, if we're going to recover, restore, rebuild, and win again, we got to deal with the things that became attached to us in the losing season or in the down season, or when we were most vulnerable or hurt or going through it, so we can release those things, so we can recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win again. Because that's the goal. That's the goal, to get up, to get out there, and to go win. That's the goal. So thank you for being tuned in to today's part 5 of Release All Attachments. What are the words? What are the thoughts? What are the opinions? What are the criticisms that you have allowed to be attached to you, and now you carry them like they belong to you, and they were never your words. They only were sent or said to hurt or to harm and to bring you down. And they're not. It was never for you. It was never for you. So what are those words that you need to begin to release attachment to, and stop carrying them with you, because they do not belong to you. They're not for you. And the only goal, the only reason they were sent or said is to harm you, bring you down, make you feel self-conscious, to lower your self-esteem or your self-image or even your self-worth. Release attachment to those destructive words. Release attachment to destructive words said by destructive people, to destroy your confidence, to destroy your self-esteem, to destroy your self-worth, to destroy your self-value. Release all attachments to those ugly words and ugly statements. Release all attachment to those things that were said that are untrue. Release attachment to those things that were said to just hurt you and harm you. Release attachment to those things that were said that was somebody else's strong opinion, but it was never something said in love. Release all attachment to those words. Amen. So thank you for joining us again on Wake Up and Live with your girl, Dr. Najuma. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for episode 6 of our series, Releasing All Attachments. But until then, y'all know the drill. Let's get up. Let's get out there and let's go win. We out, y'all. Peace.